So my name is Justin and I'm the second affirmative. So during Eric's speech, he talks about how the US death penalty is constitutional. And like my partner said, under the 8th Amendment, it protects against cruel and unusual punishments. And that includes torture, deliberate degrading punishment, or punishment that is too severe for the crime committed. And then he talks about how there's lethal injection now, and how it gives a painless death pretty much. But not in the case of Clayton Lockett. Like my partner says also that he said that when he got the injection, it took him almost 5 times more than it was supposed to. It took 5 times as long to kill him than it should have. And on top of that, there's a report saying that the nurse improperly put the IV in his system, and that they couldn't find his veins in order to give him the dosage of cocktail. And he was suffering through it, which is almost considered torture. And I quote that he said that there was something wrong during his own execution. And also, on top of that, for the cocktails, it's not consistent because nowadays there's not companies willing to make cocktails or any drugs that relates to the killing of people. So Utah's Governor Gary Herbert signed a bill making that firing squad the method of execution if the states can't come up with a drug for the lethal injection. And that was reported by the NBC News on March 23rd, 2015 of this year. So right now there isn't a stable way in order to kill people. So firing squad, that's what people do in third world countries, mostly in Asia also. So how is that even humane in the first place? Eric then talks about how crime and how it's better to kill people that kill a lot of people than to keep them alive and keep them in jail. But according to CNN, there was a family who was at the Boston bombing. They lost their son there, and they wrote a report saying that they would rather not sentence the killer to the death penalty. And then only 15% of the Boston residents wanted to kill him with the death penalty. So the rest of Boston would rather not have the death penalty either in place on the killer. And Eric goes into talking about the cost benefits of having the death penalty, but there really isn't any, because starting with the death penalty is a very expensive trial. And there's been reports from Nevada saying that an average death penalty case costs between $1.03 million to $1.31 million. And in murder cases where only capital punishment was sought, the average was only $775,000. And that was reported by a review journal in Las Vegas, Nevada, and also in Seattle, Washington. The University of Seattle released a 7-month study into the cost of the death penalty, and found that more than 1 million price break in cases where capital punishment is not sought. And criminal justice professor Peter Collins called the study one of the most rigorous examinations of the costs associated with the death penalty. So each death penalty case cost $1 million more than it should have, and if we just stuck to life without the possibility of parole, we could save that money in housing these criminals. And he gets into how jails are overcrowded nowadays, but all the money that we could be saving through just life with parole, we could just build a jail. And according to the South Carolina Department of Correction, it's estimated that just to build a jail with maximum security for 500 inmates is $73.5 million. And given that usually, just California alone, that it costs us $59 million a year just to take care of people on death row, and it's just increasing by year. So in 1 year, instead of spending just 59 million, we could just build a jail and put all of them in jail at one time, pretty much. It's just gonna save, the entire country a lot more money that we could put elsewhere. Eric then gets into how, death penalty does not raise, crime rate. Or how it does raise crime rate. And then according to the opposing view, reported on June 19th, the scientists agree by an overwhelming majority that the death penalty has no deterrent effect, which means that the death penalty does not improve crime rate at all. And other than that, in a study by the Death Penalty Information Center, from 1991 to 2013, states without death penalty had lower murder rates than those who had the death penalty. And it ranged from as low as 7% all the way up to 46%. And according to the North Carolina Department of Justice, the state murder has declined in the years ever since execution was removed.